you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Living the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here, coming at you with a bite-sized brain snack. These episodes were inspired because of our obsession with snacks. We love to fuel our bodies with those little bite-sized nutritious foods, and we've also talked about adding movement snacks into your day the same way. So we have food and we have movement covered, but what about our brains? It's time to add some little bite-sized brain snacks into your week, and that's what these episodes will be all about. Bite-sized wellness wisdom for lifelong learners. So let's open up and satiate our minds. This brain snack is all about the topic that's on so many people's mind: fat loss and health. Picture this: you're on a mission to transform your body, shed those extra pounds, and supercharge your health. But in a world filled with the tempting treats and tantalizing tastes, how do you separate fact from fiction? Well, fear not, because in this episode, we're serving up a delicious dish of knowledge that'll have you salivating for success. We're about to reveal the 10 foods you should be avoiding like the plague if you want to embark on your fat loss journey with style and vigor, and how you can replace it with healthy alternatives. But wait, there's more. It's not all about deprivation and bland salads. No, we've got the juicy deets on what you should be focusing on. Those mouthwatering, nutrient-packed power foods that will catapult you towards your dream physique and vibrant health. So get ready to take notes, because we're about to arm you with the knowledge you need to make the best food choices for your body and turn your dreams into a reality. It's time to level up your nutrition game. Whether you're a seasoned fitness fanatic or just starting out on your wellness journey, this is an episode for you. I'm going to reference a blog sent out by the continuous glucose monitoring company that I work with called Levels Health. They have some of the most robust data in the world when it comes to how foods affect people's blood sugar and health. These foods on this list that we're about to talk about have produced some of the worst blood sugar responses among all of the Levels members. And we're going to offer you some ways to make these troublesome foods much healthier. Levels members, what they do is they log what they eat in the Levels app to see how their body responds. Then the app pulls in the data from the continuous glucose monitor to measure how the blood sugar acted. And then the AI algorithm analyzes several aspects of the glucose response: its rise from baseline, the height of the peak of the spike, and then the recovery time back to baseline, along with the activity around the meal that may impact the glucose of the person logging their meal. Say, maybe like a post-meal walk or a post-meal workout. And together, that yields a zone score, which is simple. It's a 1 to 10 rating for that meal, 10 being the best. And as a whole, those thousands and thousands of logs tell a story about some of the worst foods for our metabolic health, foods that frequently caused a significant glucose response, and foods that had the lowest overall zone scores. Some foods on this list, such as donuts, will not likely surprise anyone, but you may not expect to see some food items like sushi. Fish, after all, is a protein. Unlikely to spike blood sugar, right? And even on this podcast, we talk all the time about the positive benefits of fish. However, a lot of the time, the white rice under the fish is a processed starch that can cause a glucose rise in so many people. Another surprise? Grapes, generally believed to be a healthy fruit, also made this list. Whole fruit definitely is better than processed food or juice, for sure. But some fruits contain a little more sugar than others, and the way that people eat these fruits also has an impact. This list has some caveats. First, people rarely log foods alone, and meal order and composition of the meal affects the glucose response as well. So a dinner log might consist of maybe chicken, but also broccoli and bread. Chicken and broccoli, the first two are unlikely to spike one's glucose, but the bread almost certainly will. If you eat the protein first, it actually can blunt the bread's impact. Did you have a glass of wine with dinner? Well, that can further confound the results. So, on this article that they posted, they focus on entries where the listed foods were the only thing in the log. And that's why it's heavy on foods often eaten alone. So things like pizza or desserts, or just categories such as Thai food. Second, this is by no means a definitive list of foods that can cause a blood sugar rise or negatively impact your metabolic health. That would include just about anything with added sugar, high carb foods like bread, and most of the ultra processed foods that we eat. This is, Levels argues, this is the first time that they've created data backed confirmation that the foods that we talk about are more likely to cause a negative metabolic response. Continuous glucose monitors they're rare among people with diagnosed metabolic impairment, meaning mostly health conscious biohacker types are the ones that are using this company's product. So there is a little bit of a healthy user bias in this data, but it's exciting to see the things that this data can reveal as this kind of biomonitoring expands to broader populations. We'll be able to see much, much more. So let's talk about the first 5 on this list of 10 that are surprising foods that spiked blood sugar. These are the surprising ones. And then how to make them healthier. Number 1, we talked about it, grapes. Why it likely scored low is that many fruits are high in sugar and will produce blood sugar spikes, although whole fruit is always better than juice because of the fiber. Grapes, however, have 15 grams to 20 grams of sugar per cup. And though they have a low glycemic index, many people find that they raise glucose levels sharply. How can you make grapes healthier? Eat fewer grapes. Pair them with fat or protein when you're eating grapes, or just swap them for berries. Berries is a great alternative. Strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, which have about half the sugar of what these grapes have. Blueberries are going to be a superfood. Highly recommend eating a handful of blueberries every day. Number 2, oatmeal. Why oatmeal likely scored low? Often considered to be a go-to healthy breakfast, oatmeal surprises many Levels members as a glucose spiker. Now, we have to think about how many different varieties of oatmeal there are, right? Heavily processed instant or rolled varieties break down more quickly than the healthier kind, leading to a sharp blood sugar rise. And flavored varieties often contain added sweeteners. So how can we make oatmeal healthier? Levels suggest that you swap your morning bowl of oatmeal for a healthy smoothie topped with hearty toppings like hemp seeds, almond butter, chopped nuts, and chia. If you just can't give up your oatmeal, then aim for steel-cut oats, or what they call groats. And groats are these whole kernels of various cereal grains such as oat, barley, wheat, and rye. Groats are whole grains that include the cereal germ and fiber-rich bran portion of the grain, as well as the endosperm. So it's not as processed. So it takes the body a lot more energy to break down. And then you want to pair this with healthy fats and proteins, something like walnuts, almond butter, and chia that you can throw in. They also suggest swapping oatmeal for grain-free granolas or a warm chia pudding. Number 3, sushi. Why did sushi score low? Because of that sticky white rice. It's refined and high in starch. And then we douse it in soy sauce, right? Soy sauce also frequently contains sugar, which we just pour on and we just dip that sushi roll right into it. How to make sushi healthier? You can order sashimi with no rice and then don't drown it in soy sauce. Or you can try cauliflower rice, which is starting to appear at restaurants and is easy to make. Number 4, acai bowl. Man, acai bowl was hot there for a second. Why did it score low? Well, acai is touted as a superfood, and acai berries are low in sugar, just 2 to 3 grams per 100 grams, and it's loaded with antioxidants. It was just touted as this superfood. They also have a slight bitter taste, so what do the commercial people do? They tend to mix it in with sweeteners like fruits, bananas and mangoes, sweeteners like honey or sweetened nut milks, shooting the sugar through the roof when they add all of this stuff in to make that bitter taste a little bit more palatable. And those blended bowls that you buy at those quote unquote health places, those are even worse because they take out the fiber that slows down all that glucose absorption. A lot of these places that you order these acai bowls at, they throw on tons of other blood sugar spiking ingredients. So how can we make our acai bowls healthier? Mix your own at home or go off menu when you order. Reduce the sweeteners that are added. Maybe you add low sugar fruits like berries or lemon juice or coconut, and then mix in unsweetened milk. Even better, add some veggies to the top like spinach or healthy fats like chia or flax seeds to help with the absorption. And number 5 on the top 5 list of surprising foods that spike your blood sugar, this is pho and ramen. Though these two are two distinct foods, the spike is most likely from the same culprit: noodles. It's important to note that we also see food logs from levels that are broad cuisines like Thai or Chinese food. But most likely with all of these, it's the same offender. It's a particular ingredient, such as white rice or the sweet sauce that you dip it in. It's important to note that, of course, there are so many healthy Thai restaurants and Chinese menu options out there. But with all the good, there is an equal, if not greater, amount of not so good health options out there. Noodles, even rice noodles, are a processed food made with refined grains that tend to spike many people's blood sugar. So how can we make this healthier? Look for dishes without noodles. Or if you're cooking at home, swap in alternative pastas. You could do like banza chickpea pasta, which is high in protein, or ones that are made with konjac root or vegetables. Many pho and ramen restaurants now offer vegan options with spinach noodles or zucchini noodles or tofu noodles. Also, it's important to avoid any sugary sauces or glazes. Now let's go on to the 5 less surprising blood sugar bombs and then some healthier alternatives. Number 6 is Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. Chick-fil-A and McDonald's, of course. Well, most items on the menus would fall under the ultra-processed food category if you go to these places, and that means that they likely have added sugars, refined carbohydrates, with very little fiber, and poor nutrient content, all of which are going to cause a rise in blood sugar. A Chick-fil-A sandwich has sugar listed 3 times in the ingredients list, and 5 types of flour. Wow. And these meals often come with a sugary drink, of course, like orange juice or soda or whatever you do out of those fountain machines. So how can we make Chick-fil-A or McDonald's healthier? Ideally, you would skip the fast food joints altogether. But if you're stuck at one, look for whole foods without additives like salads with chicken breast, skip the sugary dressings or the croutons, or a burrito bowl without the rice. Max Lugavere even did a great video on how you can go to McDonald's and you can order a quarter-pounder patty alone, a la carte, and they claim that it's 100% beef with just salt and pepper. They apparently don't even use any oil to cook it. They just throw the patty on the grill it up, and serve it. So now, obviously, these options are not going to be the best, but when you're in a pinch and it seems that there's just only one thing that you can do, it's better to go with more intention towards healthier options and try to skip on some of the stuff that you know will spike your blood sugar. Number 7 on this list of 10, donuts. Why did donuts likely score low? Whether a dense old-fashioned or fluffy glazed, donuts are a blood sugar double whammy. First, the dough is made with refined white flour, which strips grains of many of their nutrients and their microbiome-friendly fiber. This allows your body to absorb the carbohydrates more quickly. Boom, right into the bloodstream, potentially spiking your blood sugar. And then second, donuts can contain several grams of added sugar, even without the glaze or without the frosting or without that sugar speckled, beautiful tasting heavenly stuff. This is obviously just pure sugar that we're consuming. So how can we make donuts healthier? To make any baked good more glucose friendly, swap the refined flour for a nut flour, like almond flour, and use a natural alternative sweetener like allulose or monk fruit or honey instead of sugar. Yes, it's obvious that when people are eating donuts or getting donuts, they're probably not super focused on optimal health, which is why donuts should be consumed responsibly as they are, a treat, and for special occasions. Number 8 on this list is pizza. This one makes me really sad because pizza is one of my all-time top favorite foods in the world. Why did pizza score low? Well, pizza crust is another refined flour dough, and often it includes sugar. The tomato sauce, sugar, and even processed meats like pepperoni or sausage, they also may contain hidden sugars. Dang, I knew why pizza tasted so good. How to make pizza healthier? Well, we can use the good old go-to cauliflower. Cauliflower pizza crust is now easy to find in the frozen food section and even on some menus at some restaurants. For toppings, stick with a healthy veggie option and unprocessed clean proteins like pasture-raised chicken, grass-fed, grass-finished beef or pork, or even you could go with the vegan option of tofu. Number 9 on this list, pancakes. Why did pancakes score so low? Pancake batter contains ultra-refined white flour and also typically contains sugar. Top it off with maple syrup, and it's a trifecta of glucose spiking, yes. While maple syrup is a natural sweetener that does have some minerals, it's still 2/3 sucrose. So how can we make pancakes healthier? Fortunately, there are so many delicious pancake mixes that are grain-free and sugar-free. Levels suggests a brand called Pamela's Pancake and Waffle Mix. Pamela's Pancake and Waffle Mix. This is made with coconut flour, pecan flour, walnut flour, and cassava flour. Note, cassava does spike some people when they logged it in their app. And then they also recommend Birch Bender's Keto Pancake Mix. Birch Bender's Keto Pancake Mix. Made with tiger nut flour, almond flour, coconut flour, and cassava. Also, I'm going to include a YouTube video in the description of this Bitesized Brain Snack of Level's co-founder, Dr. Casey Means, and she's walking you through how to make a great, easy almond flour pancake and frittata. So check out that link if you want to follow along with her and make that nice, cool, easy almond flour pancake and frittata. And then number 10 on this list, cereal. Why did cereal score so low? Even the brands that list themselves or advertise themselves as quote unquote healthy, we're looking at you, Cheerios, these cereals tend to list sugar as one of the first ingredients. So don't be fooled by phrases like whole grains. Cereals are processed foods that will likely raise your blood sugar. How to make them healthier? There are keto-friendly cereals like Magic Spoon, which swap in alternative sweeteners and may lower the glucose response for some people. For us, we love Magic Spoon in our household. It's an amazing and great way to get that childlike cereal craving satisfied, but also it offers a great protein boost as well. We eat Magic Spoon at night when we're short of our protein goal. So we track our protein, and if we're short, we can throw that in. Or even if we're just having like a sweet late night craving, instead of grabbing something sweet, grabbing the dried fruits or whatever, we will go for the protein cereal. You could even make your own grain-free granola or buy some at the store. So there's a list of 10 foods to avoid and how to make them healthier. Now let's shift a little bit towards what you should be focusing on for fat loss and health. Obesity rates are at an all-time high, with numbers tripling in just one generation. Tripling in one generation. And it can't be all attributed to a lack of willpower, as some people do suggest. People often overeat because they genuinely feel hungry. Or, more accurately, they tend to overeat because they don't feel full. So what's driving this insatiable hunger, and why? Why do followers of the standard Western diet seem to struggle with this for the most part? Nobody can explain this better than Dr. Andreas Einfeld, or Dr. E, as he goes by online. Dr. E recently came on the Drew Pro podcast to share his novel approach to fighting the obesity crisis, and his strategy is to focus on one thing: satiety. What is satiety? And why is focusing on satiety so desirable for warding off weight gain and the foods that promote weight gain? We're going to talk about this right here. But first, let's get a little bit of history as to why we're in this metabolic health mess in the first place and why Dr. E believes that satiety is our way out of it. Our food environment has radically shifted. Our industrialized food environment is the leading cause of obesity. Ultra-processed foods make up 60% of the average person's diet. 60%. In addition to be widely accessible, they're also super cheap and made from low-quality ingredients that are easy to overeat. Carbs, fats, salts. All these foods are virtually devoid of protein. So said simply, most of the majority of the food that we are eating isn't even real food. Yikes. Dr. E refers to the mouth pleasure we get from sugary, salty, crunchy, and fatty foods. He refers to these pleasures as hedonic factors. And it's not just junk food that has these either. It's also the quote-unquote healthy processed food snacks. Things like keto snacks or healthy ice cream or healthy cereal, chips, and roasted nuts. These are all guilty of this too, and formulated to be highly addicting by some of the most genius food scientists in the world. We are living in the heaven that our past ancestors only dreamed about. They dreamed about every single day as they gathered and hunted and fought to survive. We are in a hyper palatable, calorie-dense, ultra-processed food environment that leaves us unsatisfied and wanting to eat more and more and more. We're eating on average 500% more calories, 500% more calories than we were just 100 years ago. That is crazy to me. And yet we wonder why we're in this big fat metabolic mess. The writing's on the wall. So why can't we just fix this? Why can't we eat less and exercise more? Eating less and exercising more has been the advice for the past couple of decades. For example, calories in equals calories out, or calories in needs to be less than calories out, and yet it obviously isn't working for the masses. Government guidelines have attempted to sidestep the issue on our ultra-processed food environment by giving the general guidelines of just eating less and exercising more. But the stats don't lie. Clearly, there's more to this story, or clearly we need to get this message in a different way. When we reduce calories but still continue to eat these ultra-processed foods as bulk of our diet, it leaves us craving more and more and more because we're not getting enough protein and we're not getting enough micronutrients. And this is going to make cravings difficult to override, especially when our food environment is flooded with temptation. This is why, for the most part, counting calories is going to be a losing battle or a shoddy long-term solution for most people. It's a great strategy, in my opinion, to gather awareness for a short-term time period. And if done correctly, which we've discussed many, many times on this podcast, it can help guide you towards a more healthy diet and lifestyle, but it just really doesn't work long-term for most people. It's just a way to gather awareness to the start of your journey. The dilemma, the just eat less approach, is essentially what inspired Dr. E's work in satiety. As a family medicine specialist, he saw time and time and time again that no matter how much he tried to educate his obese patients on how to eat healthy, how to navigate their busy lives, jobs, and lifestyles, they just can't figure it out. These busy people and this ultra-processed food environment, it always wins out. This led him to take a new approach focused on satiety. Instead of completely uprooting their lives, he said focus on satiety. Satiety is the opposite of hunger. It is the feeling that we get when our bodies are satisfied after a meal and no longer have the urge to eat. Dr. E proposes that we focus on satiety instead of calories or specific diets. He argues that if we can do this, it will help us break free from the constant hunger and from getting wrapped up in the nuances of diet culture. And I've included a link in the description of this podcast where you can watch Dr. E's Low Carb Denver talk to learn a little bit more on this. It's a universal solution because it overrules our own biases. The hope for this new approach is to liberate individuals by helping them focus less on diet, whatever diet's out there, and more on the foods that promote fullness. These are low in hedonic factors and are thus difficult to overeat. So, what foods promote satiety? Whole foods, particularly those high in protein and fiber. According to Dr. E, choosing foods rich in protein and rich in fiber offers the most nourishment per calorie and makes us feel the most satisfied and the less inclined to overeat. Over time, this can help us shift our body composition the right way and help prevent and reverse obesity and chronic metabolic disease. Whole foods that are particularly high in protein and fiber. So, try this. Focus on getting adequate amount of protein at every meal. Protein has been such a hot topic, and we've talked about it a lot in the recent episodes. And it seems like everybody's talking about this protein thing due to its crucial role in longevity, how long you live, muscle synthesis, how you create and maintain muscle, and metabolic health, how your metabolism can help you get to your body weight goals, and weight loss. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon and Max Lugavere, JJ Virgin, and Sal DiStefano, all experts that I follow, they also agree to aim to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight. And if that seems daunting, a less daunting way to look at this is to eat just 30 grams of protein every time you sit down to eat. Especially breakfast. Breakfast is going to be the most important meal to get your protein in early. This is going to make it easier to combat cravings for the rest of the day. Number 2, eat more fiber. So high fiber foods fill us up and they are an amazing source of vitamins and minerals, but one can't thrive on these foods alone because they are too low in protein and calories. If high fiber plant foods make up the bulk of your diet, you might find yourself hungry and craving things like fat and sugar and salt from ultra-processed foods. So focus on your protein first and then add in the fiber-rich foods for added satiety. And the last one here is be mindful of hedonic factors: salt, sugar, fat, and crunch. Be mindful of any foods that have these. In ultra-processed foods, for sure. Hedonic factors are what drive the mouth pleasure, the dopamine hit that makes us want to keep eating. Think pretzels, pizza, ice cream, cookies. Want to guess what the absolute worst food according to Dr. E's ranking is? Drumroll, brrr, not surprisingly, potato chips and chocolate chip cookies. These are the most highly addicting and least satisfying foods on the planet. Potato chips and chocolate chip cookies. Man, I used to eat so many potato chips as a kid. I could devour an entire bag in one sitting, no problem. They're high fat, high carb, crunchy and salty, and so delicious. It kind of reminds me of that old Pringles ad. Once you pop, you can't stop. They didn't even try to hide it from us. They knew what they were doing. Calories from hyper-palatable junk food, they just add up so fast. It's not that you can't ever enjoy these foods. It's just so important to be aware that they're designed to be they're just addicting AF. One hack that's worked for me is to eat a meal with quality protein and fiber first, and then if I'm craving a little junk food at the end, say some siete chips, a hedonic health food that I could often overeat easily in one bag in one sitting, easy, not even a challenge. Then what I'll do is if I do want these little bit of junk food, I'll measure out 1 serving and I'll have it after the meal. If your goal is fat loss, never bring the whole bag to the couch and start watching TV or shows. Never bring the whole bag. You will regret it at the end. It's so easy to have just a food scale on your counter and then have a bunch of bowls stacked on top of that food scale. You dump a little serving into one of the bowls and you measure it out, and then you just have that serving. You grab the bowl and you take it, or whatever serving fits your goals. I do this because I know that these foods are super addictive. Yes, even the health food snacks. But by having my protein and my fiber first, I'm less likely to eat the whole bag. I'm just a big fan of Dr. E's satiety approach. I highly recommend you watching this video. It really shows how he breaks down the scores that he has for each food item. I think it's really fascinating to watch. So check it out. I'm going to include the link in this episode. And Yes, he's gotten his fair share of pushback on this approach, of course. Nutrition is going to be there's just so many polarizing thoughts on the internet. But what I like about Dr. E's approach is that he's open to feedback. And with his approach to satiety, it's constantly evolving. And I think that his core principles are things that we can all agree on. Prioritizing protein and fiber and minimizing these hedonic foods, especially when it comes to ultra processed foods, it just seems to be smart. It just seems like that is the natural way to go because it's the opposite of what we're really doing right now. And what we're doing right now is not working. Regardless, I'm just glad that we have so many people that are thinking about new ways to tackle this obesity crisis, because if we just keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, that's insanity. So eat your protein, eat your fiber, control the hyperpalatable ultra-processed foods, and just do this with awareness and do this consistently. And over time, I'll bet you a chocolate chip cookie that you start to see the results that you're after. And that's it, my friends, for this bite-sized brain snack. Share the knowledge that you gain with your friends and family and hold each other accountable. If you enjoyed this content, it helps a ton if you could post on your social media stories a screenshot of this episode and include one takeaway that you learned, and make sure that you tag me and share your journey. Tag me at livingthedream_podcast or at Coach Damien_SD, and let us know how this episode benefited you. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what we got wrong. Tell us how you have made some less healthy foods into healthy alternatives. And let us know your experience with focusing on satiety instead of calories. Message us if you have any suggestions or tips that would help your Living the Dream team that we can discuss on future episodes. And I will be right here with you, working on making us stronger, happier, and healthier humans. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.